there are things that doing a group actually allow you to do that are really more beneficial for your participants than if they were in a one-on-one conversation just with you as their coach. And that's important for us to recognize and to actually buy into, because otherwise we can feel like offering a group is only giving them second best. They're having to share us with everybody else in the group. And while that is true, they do have to share our time. They can't just luxuriate in the one-on-one attention. Still, in groups, you can facilitate things that you cannot facilitate one-on-one because of the power and the dynamics that are inherent in a group. When I did group therapy for years, there were things that I was trying to work in the one-on-one session or even in a couple session with a married couple, that once I got the person into a group setting or a couple into a group setting, suddenly began to happen for them, because whereas they were exchanging back and forth with me one-on-one in the individual session, in the group, they could process that same way, and then in being silent, they could hear someone else processing oftentimes their same stuff, and suddenly they saw with fresh eyes what they were struggling with and why they weren't getting past it. And they actually heard themselves offering insights or ideas or posing questions that they really needed to be hearing themselves. But in stepping into a different role, instead of the person with the issue, being a person with some ideas and some helpful feedback, they were able to receive what they in fact had inside themselves, but it wasn't coming out in our one-on-one conversation. So keep that in mind. This can be a different and very valuable way for your coaching clients to gain more growth. That's just the power of the group itself, one of the benefits of doing groups or classes. Also, obviously, you can serve more clients at one time than you can in one-on-one, and you can charge considerably lower fees than you would in a one-on-one session. That means also, depending on the number of people in your group, that you can have a higher hourly income. For the same amount of time you're spending, you are making more money as the provider, though each of your participants is paying considerably less. It's kind of like everybody wins here, and this is really where that work smarter, not harder, starts to pay the bills. You can package your groups and your classes with one-on-one service. Please keep that in mind as you're listening to the rest of this. Don't hear this as an either I do individual or I do group. Hear it as I can do both, and I can even do both in the same packaging with the same client. People that are in your groups don't have to be excluded from having one-on-one sessions with you. And that can be a different way to price your services, maybe still less than what they would pay for full one-on-one with you. But if they get 2 group calls a month and 1 private session, maybe that's a lesser fee, a little more affordable, and they still get as much or maybe even more bang for their buck because they're getting that group feedback. Doing groups and classes also allows you in your marketing to target the niches that you say you're trying to target. In setting up your coaching business, putting it out there on the web and saying, this is what I coach around, A, B, C, and D. When you offer groups or classes around those themes, it really makes you stand out more as the go-to person. Right now, there are very few coaches who do other than just providing one-on-one service. When you go to a coach's website and you see that they have classes that they teach on the topics they specialize in, or groups that they facilitate on those topics, you recognize, oh, maybe they really are truly specializing in that. It helps with your credibility. And one of the other beauties of this is, in addition to the increased income you're making from doing groups, you can create spin-off products from those groups or classes to add additional income. Here I'm talking about something like, as I mentioned, there are no books right now. Well, if you put together a book on whatever kind of group work you're doing, and it's something that's relatively low cost, an ebook, for example, or a series of articles, or top 10 lists that your group comes up with, and you post these on your website for download at a cost, or for free download, and they're part of your marketing. People can get them just from an autoresponder, and it again makes you stand out as a specialist. If you can spin them into articles or chapters in other people's books, all of these kinds of things, even doing audio or video recordings of the material you're presenting, can be spin-off products for additional income and increased exposure and branding.